Peter, the sluggish economic growth in South Africa spells more troubles for struggling construction and building companies. And of course, according to Fitch, this is likely to delay the turnaround of cash-strapped construction firms such as Aveng, Basil and Group 5, whose fortunes largely depend on the recovery of the construction industry. The local industry will drag down the performance of the construction industry in Southern Africa compared to other sub-Saharan Africa regions. And of course, in South Africa, South Africans are encouraged to start businesses that will create jobs and contribute to the country's GDP. And as part of the industrialization plan, a new factory has opened its doors today in Johannesburg. And for more, we are joined by the chairman of the Small Business Development Institute of South Africa, as well as CEO of Malvilox, Xolani Qubeka. Thank you very much for coming to our program.
Thanks for the invitation. Thank you very much.
Right. As the companies are encouraged to start businesses, they come up with manufacturing products that are mainly imported into the country. But this time around, we're countering that. We're coming up with products that you would like to manufacture locally so that they can be consumed around.
Yes, indeed. Fortunately, the manufacturing sector, is the most viable option if we were to create jobs and to industrialize the country. And therefore, our strategy to create a supply-side business rather than a construction side, because more often than not, when we're talking about the slump of construction industry, what is forgotten is that in the whole construction spend, if you're spending 100 rands on construction, 70% of that goes to supplies, so, and then everybody else fights for the 30%. So we've opted to be in the supply side of construction. I mean, whether a construction product is successful or not, but they will still have to buy their supplies. So we think that there are a lot of opportunities, particularly around the social housing side, which most of the spend in South Africa is focused on right now.
Mm-hmm. So how important is the development of an industry that will, on the supply side of things, provide roof tiles and tassels so that it can get the local and low-cost housing underway?
Well, I think one of the most important, elements that promotes, government policy, particularly from developing black-owned businesses, is the fact that we must begin to focus on the construction, on the manufacturing side rather than on the services side, because it is that part of reindustrialization that's going to create new jobs in South Africa. So the scope is huge. Just the company that we have launched this morning, we started manufacturing last year. We already employing 54 people. And of those, at least 54 people, over 90% of those people have never been employed, before. But today, they assist us in developing our business, and therefore they play a very pivotal role. So the industry that we are in, and manufacturing in particular, does accelerate job creation, and it also speaks, I think, to support for SMEs.
Mm-hmm. The story of employing people who have not been working, tell us a little story about that, because you're saying they are these gentlemen who sit on the street corners and waving at cars looking for jobs, and you've taken 54 of them.
Yeah, well, not necessarily 50, but over 90% of them. In fact, when we purchased the building, after we got part of the funding, each day we drove into the building. We have all of these people who see cars starting to come into this building, and they start gathering at the gate there. After a week, and I said to my team, let's go talk to those guys and understand what are their needs, etc., and also explain what our process is, because we are here now. We're not going to be operating tomorrow, so they're going to be coming every day. The best thing is, let's understand who they are. Let's tell them what their processes are. Let's give them contact details, and then they can stop coming here. But you must then communicate with them where we are, And most of those people are young people, who have been unemployed. Most of them, they stay in, around that area in the informal settlement. But we were able to train them. The one guy, for instance, who's a forklift driver now, was actually the security in the building that we bought today. He's got a certificate. He's a forklift driver, and we had many of such stories.
So you're starting this factory and launching it today when the construction industry is hard pressed because of the low performing economy. How do you think you're going to perform when big companies have suffered a blow and the construction industry also having non-impressive numbers in terms of contribution towards GDP?
Well, look, fortunately, our strategic niche, we supply mainly. In fact, over 80% of our business is in the RDP houses. So we supply and install in the RDP houses. So government will continue to spend on social housing, so that sector is going to grow. It's not going to stop now because there are huge backlogs. Therefore, our strategic niche is into affordable and social housing, which is growing with exponential numbers. So hence our focus on that specific niche. Of course, the other 20% would be some retailers. We've seen retailers also coming to buy our products, but that is really not our major industry. Our sector, we're focusing on the low-cost housing because it is a lucrative market, and government will continue, I think, to spend, on and to balance the equilibrium within the social structure.
All right. Thank you very much for making time to speak to us.
So thanks for the invitation.
Right. The chairman of Small Business Development Institute of South Africa, as well as CEO of Malvilox, Xolani Qubeka, speaking to us about the newly launched factory that's on the supply side of the construction industry. Let's take a break.